Welcome, everyone, to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema, we take 5 of their films, and we break them down, and we discuss why they are so great. My name's Ray Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
And Let's Take 5 is going to catch on one day.
Oh, man.
You're gonna say it. So the person that we are covering is Cate Blanchett. The previous films that we've covered are Elizabeth, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Aviator, and now we are covering The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Tell me, Austin, what are your opinions on The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou?
You know, I was worried a little bit because this was always the Wes Anderson film that I liked that other people didn't, but I hadn't seen it since high school. And I turned it on and was immediately in love with this strange little world because it's about a community that it's very well knit for a reason. They have this trust about them, and that actually makes Cate Blanchett's performance even better because she is the real outsider of the movie. Because you have Owen Wilson, who wants to be part of the community, and Jeff Goldblum, who's a bit envious of the community. But she is the only one who's trying to be more objective as a journalist.
Yeah, I mean, she came in like a wrecking ball. Yeah. Oh, wait, it's not 2014. I can't say that. No, the reason why, for me, this was one I sort of kind of pushed us to pick. I mean, they were year 5, but I kind of pushed this film because if I were going to do a Wes Anderson 5, this movie might not make the cut. But it's a movie that I really enjoy, so I wanted to talk about it too. And if we can talk about Cate Blanchett in the context of it, that's even better. To me, the first time I saw this film, I really didn't like it, which is like a lot of Wes Anderson movies for me. And then I usually warm up to them, save Darjeeling Limited, which I do think is his worst film. But this one, I thought it was like Wes Anderson getting way too Wes Anderson. And you talk about that funny little world that he creates because it's very almost Wes Anderson gimmicky. He runs amok through this film. But I do think that you bring up the interesting point that Cate Blanchett is always there to sort of ground it. She gives an amazing performance in this film, a supporting performance, and as I recalled it, and then now I'm rewatching it now, to me it is more supporting than, and she's more of a secondary character in this film than she was in The Aviator, which I thought, when I first started this, was probably the other way around. Because the story is more about Steve Zissou and his son.
But what she does with that is so interesting because in the previous 3 films, Elizabeth, she's in almost every scene, and the movie's about her. It's really literally about her authority and what she's going to do with it. As Galadriel, she is the ruler of this area and one of the most mystical and mysterious people in the whole franchise. And in The Aviator, she's one of the most well-known movie stars on the planet at that time.
Ever.
And this movie, and it came out the same day as The Aviator, which I find fascinating. She plays someone, for the first time as I've seen her, who can hide in the background, which is amazing because she should be an outsider, so people should notice that she's new in the room. She is in a different color scheme than all of them the entire film, and she is very pregnant.
Yeah, well, she's adorable. I mean, I hate to be so... It sounds patronizing, but, she's pregnant and she pops bubblegum.
Yeah.
The whole film, which is just, I don't know, really cute to me.
Well, it's a more embracing performance than the other 3. The other 3 are designed to kind of keep you at a distance while she assesses you in many ways. This is someone who wants you to get closer so she can kind of learn the truth and kind of have a greater article. She recognizes that there is a story here as the rest of the world is kind of forgetting about.
Yeah, she's reporting on Steve Zissou.
Yeah, and Steve Zissou is this... he was based off an actual or 2 actual French oceanographers who kind of made these kind of great educational films for families that show the wonders of the world and many things. And he's now just made 30 or so films, and they're not what they used to be. And in fact, the latest film is just for revenge. It's not for educational value. No. But she kind of sees there is a story, especially when she gets there, and now there is perhaps a long-lost son meeting Steve for the first time.
There's one thing I just want to get out of the way right now. Ned is the character that it's played by Owen Wilson, plays Steve Zissou's son. And he's supposed to be from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. Do I sound like Ned? That really kind of gets on my nerves, way more than it should. And, I shouldn't because it's Owen Wilson, but it does for some reason. And I do think Owen Wilson is actually good when he's in a niche, right? Mm-hmm. Like he plays Eli Cash in Royal Tenenbaums. And really, I like Ned Plimpton, I think is his name, which is really goofy and fun, too. But you're right. So, there's this reconnecting possibly between a long lost son with Steve Zissou, and she's reporting on that. So she's sort of found the story here, right? Because it starts off the way the movie sort of sets it up. She is kind of antagonistic to what's going on. Would you agree with that? Because, they're going on this voyage, and they're looking for this thing, and her goals are so contrary to what Team Zissou's are.
Oh, okay.
And at least antagonistic in the sense that the relationship between Steve Zissou and her.
Well, it's someone that Steve Zissou can't charm. And I think what was so interesting about her placement was you see Steve do so many things, and some of them are bumbling, some of them are wrong. But these people who've been with him for 20 years.
True. I'd be careful with that, though, too, because I don't think that Steve Zissou's particularly charming at all. He can't charm his own wife.
Well, but they all know him.
Yeah.
Every person on the crew knows him really well. They all know each other so well.
Type thing.
Yeah, and they know when Steve's talking what he's really saying. They don't dislike him, but they aren't as charmed by him. They know who he is, he knows who they are, and that's what they do. So there's a familiar way that everyone operates, except with her. So, he can flirt with the interns or whatnot, but when he flirts with her, she's not interested. Not really for a journalistic standpoint. Just, no, you are... Nothing about this is working right now.
There's a really funny moment when they go up on the balloon that hovers above the ship, and he gets up there with her, and he puts his arm around her, and she kind of reacts to it and kind of moves away, and when he gets close to her to kiss her, and then he acts like he's looking into the sun, so he squints his eyes. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, so you have that going on. He comes off creepy here, but the movie is so juvenile anyway, and the way it sort of decides to tell its story that it's not creepy in this context.
Well, juvenile is the right word, because how they got up there is that he just abruptly says while they're somewhere else, "Do you want to see my balloon?" And like everything else in this world, it has a giant Z on it because these are his toys. Mm-hmm. And just like wanting to show someone your room as a kid, this is what he has.
Yeah.
He likes having the fresh eyes on his ridiculous thing, and boy, is it a ridiculous boat that
the Belafonte, man.
It is, Wes Anderson films are often described as very dollhouse-like. That's to put everything in the right little room. This one, this one he built it, and it's a giant boat that's sawed in half, so you can see every single little quirky, weird room as you can kind of move the camera across.
And the stuff outside, because you got to get the dolphins too. The dolphins are very important.
No, they're underneath the ship.
Yeah, that's right. They're underneath the ship, and he says that they're supposed to be highly intelligent, although I've seen no evidence of this. He also, as I'm talking about this, he has a very antagonistic relationship with a lot of things in this film, including the dolphins that work for the Belafonte.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes from the film, and there are many, "Son of a bitch, I'm sick of these dolphins." It's such a great quote.
It's just the idea of, I don't know, if you imagine Neil deGrasse Tyson really hating a couple stars. Yeah, just really hating those.
It's really annoying. So she has that relationship with him at the beginning of the film with Steve Zissou. The character's name is Jane. So Jane then starts to a romance starts to blossom with Steve's son Ned, right? And it happens, which is kind of interesting because nothing in Wes Anderson movies typically happen very naturally. They're almost always, they're always melodramatic, but intentionally so, and almost as a point, as a joke. This is very natural, how their relationship starts to develop, right?
I was so worried rewatching this film about was what kind of performance that we're going to see across the board, because it's very easy for actors to just get into the Wes Anderson dryness and not put anything else into it. I think immediately of Bruce Willis in Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah.
He only knows how to do it that way in many ways. And Cate Blanchett is rather amazing in this, because as Wes Anderson, and this is not a criticism, it's just a really cool style, but he puts his camera, every take the camera's always going to stop exactly right there, almost like it's operated by a robot. And it's going to happen here, the actor's going to go here, and like this. It's all going to be the moving pieces. But she moves in a way where it really is like she's on the wrong tour in the museum. She wanders around way more than any other kind of Wes Anderson characters. She is not really focused on the words as much as other Wes Anderson characters. She kind of some throwaway, because that's just kind of how she keeps putting herself in the world. She really isn't. You keep forgetting she's in the room for an ensemble, and that's not how Cate Blanchett typically is. Cate Blanchett is amazing authority movie star.
Yeah, I was going to say used authority in one of the podcasts we recorded earlier. I can't remember which one. Probably
I'm
Elizabeth.
worried it's all
Maybe
of them.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I
think it's
remember.
all of them.
But you used that term, and it is a very appropriate term to describe the way she acts. And then in the film we cover after this, Carol, it's the same sort of thing, right? But she's able to adapt that style to this film to where she doesn't come off as authority just so much as she comes off different. And by coming off different, she's just coming off normal. And she has very, very real problems in this sort of surreal world. She's in developing this relationship with Ned, she's also in a debate on whether or not to maybe terminate her pregnancy. I mean, that's talked about. She says, "I don't know why I'm still pregnant." She also has the father's not in the picture, and she continually calls the father, and I think that's part of why she kept the baby, because she wanted that to work, and it's something that she can't control, right? And that's, again, and I keep saying this, those problems play out in a very surreal way in Royal Tenenbaums. It's a very, very dramatic film, but you laugh so much that you forget how heartbreaking the actual story is, right? She kind of has a little of that Tenenbaums edge to her in this film too, because she has a lot going on and problems that are not easily solved, but hers seem really grounded and real in a way that a lot of Wes Anderson's, particularly predating Darjeeling, aren't.
Yes.
Does that make sense what I'm saying? I mean, if anyone out there is a Wes Anderson fan that's not just a Cate Blanchett fan, is going to know what I'm talking about, I think.
It's always interesting how Wes Anderson, because he co-writes or writes by himself each one of his films. And this one he co-wrote it with Noah Baumbach, which he's made 2 films with him now. He also co-wrote Fantastic Mr. Fox. And throughout his canon, Wes Anderson, he doesn't have, a lot of really great female characters. It's just not entirely his focus of what he's doing. I mean, I really enjoy Gwyneth Paltrow in the Royal Tenenbaums. I really
She's probably
enjoy
my favorite Wes Anderson character.
Angelica Houston in the Royal Tenenbaums. But then it really also be Cate Blanchett in this, because as everyone kind of has their strange little thing, hers don't even feel strange. You can say she's a bubblegum popping pregnant woman on a deep sea submarine, and yet Cate Blanchett plays that so casual in a way that's almost unexpected, because this is the only film of our 5 that is a modern film. It's like when it's weird to see Keira Knightley in modern clothes. Like, oh right, you don't just always exist in a corset.
No, that's true.
And it's like that here, and Cate Blanchett can mask herself in so many times and eras and different tones, but this one is, because we've talked about her as a character actor, and as a character actor you kind of supposed to be stunning and then go away in many ways. She is being stunning by how she sticks around.
Yes. Well, if without her, 2 things I want to say. Well, this one I'll say first, just to get it out of the way. It is interesting that Wes Anderson doesn't always seem to be interested in women very much, but because he's certainly interested in children.
Yes.
So the reason I came to that conclusion that I was thinking about this is because I was thinking about how Margot Tenenbaum is one of my favorite characters of his, but that's also a shared role because the child that plays Margot, which is a child, is very important to that as well. But it is an interesting point. But also, too, she exists as a fulcrum for Ned's arc as well, because without her in this movie, Ned doesn't have anything to bounce his emotion off of, right? Because Ned is falling in love with her, and he's juggling that with the rekindling of the relationship he's supposed to have with his father, and something that we haven't really talked about too much. I mean, we mentioned it a little bit. His father, not in love with Jane at all, but he wants to sleep with her too, which that complicates more than he wants to reconnect with his own son, it would seem, until it's really put to the ultimate test at the end of the film. One of the more beautiful scenes Wes Anderson's ever done.
Well, it's interesting. If she wasn't there, then everyone would just continue along Steve's tracks.
You know what it reminds me of, too, like the way the other people react, and this is something that I don't know if it affects females the same way, but when men are in a group together and they have a woman that is in the group that is not objectified at all, not like seen as a sexual object, a girl that's platonic, but she's a different sex and she's around them, it changes the way the way the men react and the way they act. They have fun in a way they might not have before. Does that kind of make sense? At least I've had that experience. Like, sometimes it's good to just have a woman around. Like, I mean, no, really. I mean, it changes the way the men talk to each other and the way the men behave, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't agree
well,
with that.
I think just always a different member of the group can do that, because like I have women friends that I continue just silly, crass behavior to, and
right.
But if I had
you have women friends, but what I'm saying, if I brought one of my women friends, like if I brought Justine here,
right,
that you would react differently than you might if Justine's a friend of mine that no one on this podcast is going to know. But
I know her.
I know because I've seen it. You behave. You behave differently.
That's true.
You're on better behavior, but also.
I do that for a lot new friends in general.
Okay. Well, in my experience, it's usually women, because I hang out with the same 10 guys for the past 20 years, which speaks a lot to me. But that's my experience at the very least. Mm-hmm. So, regardless, ignoring that she's a woman, the only reason I brought that up is because you brought it up earlier with the how he's disinterested with women, or he may seem to be that way.
I thought the female. The lead child in Moonrise Kingdom.
But again,
it's a great character.
But then it has the child caveat to it as well, because he is interested in children. He has always been. But at the very least, she affects the way all these people behave, because she's the outsider coming in, mm-hmm. I think, which was just a very, very long-winded way of getting at what you said in the first 3 minutes.
Nailed it.
Jeez, I'm not very good at this.
I'm not going to edit this. Well, it's interesting because the outsider works as well for Ned, because I really enjoyed the humor that was around Willem Dafoe's character, because Willem Dafoe's character is so insecure around Ned, because clearly Willem Dafoe, he so desperately wants to be on the A team for when they go in for. By the way, I totally forgot the whole pirate subplot. That's what happens when 10 years have gone by.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the film.
Yeah, so Willem Dafoe really wants to be on Steve's team as they go, go on the rescue mission for the pencil pushing lawyer guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of action in this. So
it's a weird movie.
It really is. I'm sorry, we're laughing because this is not a movie you would think has a huge amount of gunfights and explosions in it. It does.
Yeah,
it does.
There's a body count.
there is a body count. There's a there's a high death toll.
Yeah, in fact, death starts the film.
That's right.
Yeah,
it does. That, for me, just talking about the movie's perspective on the whole thing as well. So, in order for Steve to get the financing to go on this excursion to find the shark that killed his best friend, which Ned is sort of a surrogate of that now, too. You get that feeling that's the connection. Not just he's trying to make with his son, but he wants that companionship that he had with his friend that he doesn't have any longer. But at the end of the film, which is driven by revenge, but to get the financing to go on this quest fueled by revenge, he has to agree to not actually kill the shark. Mm-hmm. He can't do it because it might be an endangered species or whatever. And or whatever.
Well,
screw those endangered species. That's not what I meant by that.
No, you were accidentally right on, because no one actually knows that the jaguar shark exists.
Well, no one believes that it does.
Yes, because what he's describing isn't an animal that anyone's seen.
Yeah, exactly. So when they go down there and see it for the first time, that's one of the most beautifully shot things that Wes Anderson's ever done.
Oh, yeah.
There was so much emotion in that moment because now he's lost Ned. Ned has just died in the film. He's lost his best friend, and Jane's there with him. Jane observing this as part of the completion of her journey through him, or through this story. And that moment is really emotional for me. It's actually hard for me to put a finger on exactly why.
I think it's because, I mean, at this point, everything's falling apart, and they're in this very small vessel. Mm-hmm. And you really kind of have all at once the things that Steve cares about the most all together. As much as he almost hates to admit it, he really does love his team. Steve Zissou is important to him. It isn't just a possessive thing. It means a lot when they wear his uniform, when they wear the colors. And have all of them there, and especially also because his wife's there as well, who their relationship is horrible right now. And because you only saw bits and pieces of it throughout the film of his relationship with nature. As you said, he mocks the dolphins. But I do love at the premiere of the film, the very beginning, a child gives him the first of many quirky animals we're going to see that are done through stop motion. And he names it, and really this meant something to him, that this gift was given to him by this child. And he puts water into a champagne glass and carries it above the crowd. You kind of see why he got into this at the beginning. It wasn't for fame. It was for this connection to beauty in many ways. He's not just covering bugs. Yeah. He's covering these really colorful, incredible creatures. And at this point, the animal that killed the person he cared about the most is that again.
And it's also what he loves playing against him.
Yeah.
You know, like what he's put so much time. It's like Steve Irwin.
Yeah, sure.
You know, it's
tragic.
It is, and it's and it's sort of poetic irony as well. You mentioned it being like stop motion claymation thing. I think that almost adds to the beautiful Wes Anderson nuance that he's got going on through the film.
If he's going to do animals, it's going to be deep sea animals that all seem like supernatural creatures.
Yeah, because Wes Anderson just using CGI as an actual tool, which huge contrast to Lord of the Rings that we just said, which basically it didn't invent but revolutionized the modern CGI as we know it.
Sure.
And then doing this, I can't imagine Wes Anderson with that tool. It just doesn't seem something he would be particularly interested in using, you know. And when they do see this shark, because claymation will look ridiculous to 2016 eyes in a lot of different ways, but when they do see the shark, and they're all there for it at the very end, it's this claymation shark, and the beauty is unaffected by this. In fact, it's enhanced by it.
Especially because you also have the emotion of this is the end of this. Mm-hmm. Steve Zissou is completely falling apart. The money's gone. The drive was already gone. Ship's falling apart, literally. Everything is falling apart. This is the last one. And also, they keep joking, but they might even die in this little carrier because nothing's actually working. Probably not even that. And
it's very romantic.
It's a very romantic, and it's really well done. And it really means a lot of who's in that boat. Mm-hmm. And it's what Jane was looking for the whole time, of really kind of the true emotion that it's kind of been bottled up by so many people. And I mean, even is she there at the point when they're covering the animals on the beach, the glowing animals?
They're glowing. I can't remember.
Yeah, but like at that point, I mean, he's naming the wrong animals.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was never the brains behind Steve Zissou.
Yeah,
which I always think that's really funny, because shouldn't Steve Zissou? What does he do? you kind of do that the whole time as you start to figure out like what is his actual skill that he brings to the table, because Angelica Houston's able to name what it is, because she's the brains behind it.
It's almost like if you put your name on so many buildings and different organizations, it's like you're insecure about your own intelligence on it.
Well, and he's very insecure.
Yeah.
That is a point. I know we're spending a lot of time on Steve Zissou's arc, but he is the title character.
Yeah, this is a movie that is not an ensemble. It all centers around him.
It does. And and she plays into that. Jane, the Cate Blanchett character, really does. The reason why I almost said Winslet, let me just get this out. Her character name is Jane Winslet Richardson. Okay, so it wasn't because I'm just confusing actors with accents. Okay, that's not what it was. So I just want to say that for all.
You're just being cross-eyed on the notes we have before us.
Exactly. Well, we did our research. We have the notes in front of us, but that's paper. But yeah, no.
I added that in.
So he is, but he's afraid that she's going to find out how little he really does bring to this whole operation. That's part of why he's combative with her.
Well, it's once he learns it's not a puff piece.
Yes.
Then he gets very scared. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I have to do the interview right. I can't just say a couple things and then tell you to punch it up.
He pulls a gun out on her in that interview.
That's right. It's a weird movie.
It is. Because he said, I don't think you're real. I think you're a phony. And he pulls out a gun and says, is this real? And he puts it. Yeah, it's really, really, really bizarre.
One of my girlfriend's favorite lines about the movie was revolving firearms as well, is that they talk about what everybody has as their possession, and they're like, and everyone has their own Glock. Well, not the interns. And that's right, they all share one.
Yeah, it is. The script's very clever. The first time I saw it, I just missed the point of it. The whole Ned-Steve relationship and how it's sort of that fulcrum is balanced out and played out through Jane's storyline. I was looking at it more for which I think a lot of people made this mistake because this movie was not reviewed well.
No.
So a lot of people went into it with different. They hadn't adjusted their lens for Wes Anderson yet, which they do now. Because I think that if Grand Budapest had come out in its place, and I do like Grand Budapest more, but I feel like if it had come out in its place, it would have gotten the same bad reviews.
Well, I'm not sure about that because watching this again, I did notice there is a Venn diagram feel to this with Royal Tenenbaums.
Yes,
especially as a patriarch-like figure fading. In many ways.
Well, the truth about that, though, in Royal Tenenbaums is that he was never there.
Yeah.
So that's where I find
it's a Venn diagram, but you can see the same filmmaker made both those films. Mm-hmm. I think in his past 3 films now, and that's Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom, and Grand Budapest Hotel,
which are 3 films I do think are better than this one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think those 3 films are showing that Wes Anderson's lens goes beyond the same similar family setup we've seen in a couple of his films. Yeah. Films I love. I mean, I adore Rushmore and such. But we're now seeing... He's now exciting to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's fair. And then someday we'll cover Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
And we'll...
Until then, we're just going to bring him up on a segment.
Until then, we're just going to bring him up... Yes, we will. Final thoughts on this movie, Austin?
Cate Blanchett was a delight.
She really was. It's, she can really sneak into the background here. She's got a little weird background characters too. I mean, we didn't talk about Angelica Houston very much. We didn't talk about Jeff Goldblum at all, which plays his...
Oh my god, that's going to be our best 5 ever.
Yeah, his very gay, very evil nemesis, seemingly... He has some of the funniest lines. It's Jeff Goldblum playing a gay version of Jeff Goldblum. It's fantastic.
I honestly forgot he's gay in this movie, which shows what kind of performance he's giving.
He can't let you forget because he's married to Angelica Houston. One of his lines is, "We weren't very good husbands, were we?" To Steve Zissou, and he goes, "No, we weren't." And then before he can really get that out, he says, "Of course, I have an excuse. I'm part gay." Yeah, he just floats that out there.
And he just kind of walks away.
Yeah, exactly. Willem Dafoe is in the film. We didn't mention that at all. As Klaus, he's really, really, really funny.
And the entire film is scored by...
Michael Gambon's in this film.
Yeah, he's amazing at it.
Yeah.
And the whole film is scored by Portuguese covers of David Bowie songs.
That guy's performing in Chicago here in a couple days, the guy that does it. But
they announced it the day after I watched this film. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah, I think that the only... there's one other one, but I can't remember where, but the only David Bowie song just performed by David Bowie is Life on Mars at the very beginning. I do think there is one other time.
I think there is another time, but
anyway. My final wrap-up thought would just be that, she is a delight. I didn't really finish that thought, but she is a true delight. I like how majestic she is when she enters, because she's like on the beach and sort of comes out of the shadows or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just...
it's literally during the beach scene, where they find those the clone animals.
That's where we were getting at. What was our first scene? How could we forget?
Yeah.
And then just all the wonderful little touches Wes Anderson sort of gives her, the tools, the pen in her hand as she takes the notes, or the tape player she does to record them talking, the fact that she's pregnant.
She reads to her child, and it's like book 14 of a 20-book set.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Owen Wilson, like clearly wanting a parental figure, like sits down and listens to it, and she goes, "Do you mean to catch you up on the story?" And he says, "No, I'm okay."
Yeah,
it's a really sweet moment.
Yeah, it's just all earned, and it's effective in a way that Wes Anderson, these type of things in Wes Anderson movies don't always do it this way, because they're not as always grounded in the actual world we live in and not the one Wes Anderson lives in. And if there's one part of this movie that sort of appeals beyond just like your normal Wes Anderson film, I think it's that relationship, and it's really aided by the fact, because it's not really aided by Owen Wilson all that much. It's really aided by how wonderful of an actress she is.
She's, I think, the only one in this movie who gets to do her own thing in Wes Anderson's playset.
Yeah, I would say, because Bill Murray's used as a tool, as a weapon, and I think he's more than happy to oblige that.
Sure.
Because he's just as weird.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right, that is episode 19. If you have any thoughts about Steve Zissou or Cate Blanchett, you can go to theartofmorrow.com and you can leave a comment on this thread. Or if you're a bit shy, you can email us at letstake5@theartofmorrow.com. You can always follow us on Twitter at The Immortals Pod, because we share that with the other podcast at The Art Immortal, which is The Immortals. And yesterday we reviewed the film Clueless. That was a nice breather after doing a Bergman film. So you can do that. And Eric, where else can we find you?
You can find me at Constant Diversion. That's my YouTube channel. I review video games, and by that I mean we do a review once every month or two. The Uncharted video just came out, and it's a good one.
A brand new streamcast.
I put that to private. Oh, so sometimes we put the streamcast out, sometimes we don't. We're still trying to figure out what type of channel we want to be.
I gotcha. So, well, listeners, I saw the streamcast.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please disregard the past statement. No worries.
All right, you can join us next Friday. We're going to review the final film in our Cate Blanchett set, which is Carol, and we're going to have a cool guest on as well.
Yeah, it's a very, very similar movie to Life Aquatic.
In that they're both people's names in the titles. And that's it.
Cate Blanchett's in them.
That's right. All right, we'll catch you all next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
May I turn this on?
Fire one.
So what happened, in your opinion?
What are you talking about?
Well, don't you think the public perception of your work has significantly altered in the last 5 years?
That's your first question? I thought this was supposed to be a puff piece.
Should we come back to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it true that this is going to be your last voyage?
Wow. No comment. Who told you that? No, goddammit. I'm only 52. I'm always start out with some stock dialogue. Favorite color, blue, favorite food, sardines.
How do you feel about part one of your new film?
Why? How do you feel about part one of my new film?
Well, I'm honest, so...
Just say it.
I thought aspects of it seemed slightly fake.
Wolodarsky?
Take 5, Steve.
I like taking 5.